to Generate Profits Before and After Your Book Launch with Michelle Pippin. Michelle has been known as America's favorite small business coach, and clients go to Michelle for one reason: to increase their income dramatically, quickly, and consistently. She is the queen of all things profitable and practical, and I am going to turn over the webinar to her. So please perk up and listen, because you're going to get a lot of great gems.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here, more excited than any of the attendees would know, because we had some technical issues. So the fact that we are live and able to go through this webinar is really exciting to me. I'm really going to be throwing myself into this presentation, and we've got a lot to cover, and so I'm going to be moving quickly. While the incredibly savvy folks over at Greenleaf Book Group will be live tweeting, I'm going to be tweeting and following up with each of you guys who are tweeting after we hang up, because I'm going to be moving quickly and I don't want to get distracted. So please tweet, ask questions, give feedback, and I promise to get back with each and every one of you, from today. I'll get back to you guys later this evening. So if you can tweet your comments or questions to @GreenleafBookGR or @Michelle Pippin with the hashtag IdeasThrive, that would be really great. That would help us, get back to you in a more timely manner. Also, a couple of quick notes regarding housekeeping before we get started. If you have questions for me, email me at michelle@bmichellepippin.com. I believe that's at the bottom of every slide. Please put Greenleaf in the subject line, and I'll get back to you within 24 hours or so. You're going to hear me throughout this presentation giving my thoughts on Greenleaf Book Group. And I want you to know that this comes purely from my relationship with Greenleaf, and particularly from my relationship with Ashley over the years. And due to my own business standards, just sort of how I operate, I have no affiliate relationships. So my recommendations are pure, right? I'm never compensated in any way for pointing authors and speakers and experts in the right direction towards other professionals that I trust. I want to say this up front, just so there's no misinterpreting my intentions here today. With that said, I have some huge intentions for our time together, and I'm excited to see the number of attendees going up. I hope that we get a lot of authors on here, because what we're going to cover today will make a really big difference in your the life of your book and in the life of your business. So my intentions today are, I want to help you reach the profit potential with your book, whether it's still in your head or it's in boxes in your garage. There's still a lot of profit left in your book, and we want to be sure that we're doing all that we can to collect all of it. My motto for the experts that I work with is more income, more impact, and more influence. I believe those are the three things we really are all going after. It's pretty straightforward. So I'm adamant about encouraging people to be careful. Whoops, I apologize. Who they listen to. There are a lot of charlatans out there preying on the expert industry, coaches, speakers, authors, and I've seen the underbelly of this industry. I've seen people filming a video in a rented by the hour Bentley, filming a commercial in front of their private jet that's literally getting repossessed the next day. I've seen the profit expert writing books, teaching you how to make money, having to go to her dad to cover her own bills. So truly, I've seen it all. So I want to go ahead and cover why I might be worth listening to today. First of all, because Greenleaf told you to listen to me. I'm sort of kidding, but I've worked with many authors and been a part of many, many book launches, both people who are self-publishing and others who are working with traditional publishers. Here is a quick snapshot of the authors, brands, books that I've worked with and or interviewed for my own Enterprising Experts program, and or am currently working with on profiting from their expertise, which is what you're hoping to do. This varied experience over many, many years working with the self-published authors, traditionally published authors, has given me really the ultimate cheat sheet for authors who want to turn their book into a minimum 6 figures of profit. I know what works, what doesn't, and the nuances that make all of the difference between what works and what doesn't. So this is what we're going to be covering today. Right here is just a quick list. I'm not going to just read it to you, but we have publishing opportunities for profit, and we have post-publishing opportunities for profit. You'll see there's a little bit of overlap, and so I encourage you to stay with me. Even if your book was published 4 years ago, stay with me through the pre-publishing phase for this call, because there's a lot that you can benefit from and make part of your post-publishing plan. We're going to cover, platform building, but not the way you've heard it before. We're going to be covering how to get the attention of the media, how to deliberately make some mentions in your book that allow you to get the attention of the people you really want to get the attention of, and a lot more. So, but the core of everything that we are talking about today is really sales choreography for authors. The key really is not to expect your publisher to make your book profitable, not to expect your publicist to make your book profitable, not to expect your book to make you profitable. As authors, as the face of our own brands, as the experts, it's up to us to deliberately choreograph and orchestrate paths to profit in our own business. The book, the publicist, the publisher then becomes so much more valuable to us if we do sort of the hard work of carving paths to profit in our business. We want to assume that the book will do nothing without our direct instruction. This isn't true, of course. Books are sort of living beings. They do take on a life of their own, but it's the safest assumption to make when we can take full responsibility and allow momentum and great timing, great placement, something that I know Greenleaf is super amazing at, to happen as happy accidents. So let's talk about platform building, right? And please, if you're yawning, don't do it audibly so we can hear you. Who isn't talking to authors today about platform building, right? Did you know, quickly as an aside, I was just listening to an interview the other day that Tim Ferriss, he obviously wrote The 4-Hour Workweek and The 4-Hour Body, The 4-Hour Chef. He is just now beginning to implement email marketing. He is just now, within the past 4 to 6 weeks, starting to build an email list. And I don't recommend you following that example. He's probably left off millions of dollars of potential profit without an email list. But I say that just as a quick encouragement to those of you who may be late to the game and without a true platform, without an email list that you have control over that you can reach out to. I just say it to you as encouragement. It's only too late, if you don't start now. I think that's a famous quote. I just don't know who to attribute it to. But platform building, we do want to start now. Again, I don't get any affiliate commissions or anything, but I use aweber.com. Some of my clients use infusionsoft.com. Your Greenleaf tact may suggest something else. I typically recommend Aweber or Robly, ROBLY.com. Both, I believe, allow you to start at a 30-day free trial, so you can start collecting email addresses if you're not already doing that already. But I want to talk about the top mistake authors make in platform building. And the mistake is this: they make their platform building all about the book, and they have a crescendo. They have like almost a mountaintop experience of hype and excitement leading up to the big book unveil or the buy now date or the pre-release date of their book. Even when this scenario is successful in terms of book sales, it's a huge missed opportunity regarding ultimate profit potential of your book and for your business. We need to make the messaging in our platform building, when we're building our list, when we're leading up to that published date, we need to make the messaging all about the problem that we solve for our market. The book is really only one part of that, an important and exciting and profit-producing part of it. But if we make our platform building all about the book and all about the unveiling of the book, then your audience thinks that when they buy the book, they've come to the end of the process with you, and they sort of reached the culmination of working with you, and you have to reinvigorate an already sort of overhyped list for whatever is next for you. But if we make it about the message and the problem, then our readers will buy the book, and then they're still looking. The book is like part of the excitement. It's part of the platform building. And then they're not thinking they've reached the end. They are trusting us with their problems. They're getting to know our message. They buy the book, and then they're looking for what's next for us. And it's a slight, nuanced difference there. But the approach I take with my authors is more of a crescendo approach pre-publish date. We build steady and increasing excitement about the book from as early as possible, and we start to reveal different ideas to them about the book. We create surveys. We ask their opinion. We give sneak peeks into different snippets of the writing process. We make them a part of the book so that they feel that they've emotionally invested in it. And, we always try to look for ways to take them behind the scenes. We'll ask, who do you think we should interview about blank? Who do you think we should quote? Do you have a recipe or image to share? What do you need to know about blank? What's missing from the current books on insert your topic, right? What's missing from the current books on this topic? For the platform building, it's important to always have a plan, a schedule for this type of behind-the-scenes involvement for your audience. Too often, this very important aspect of platform building is sort of left to like whatever we think up that morning. We don't really have a plan for it. This sort of interaction of involving readers before they become readers, involving your audience in the writing of your book, not only grows your list or platform and endears you to these people, but it also helps you sell more books and sell more books to raving fans who view this book, frankly, as partly their own, right? Because they've been behind the scenes, they've kind of taken a sneak peek, they've been with you as you wrote the book. An important note, though, as you go along, because some of you guys, I hope to hear from you. I hope to get emails from you with questions or whatever, but some of you I may never hear from again. So I want to make a little important note. Even though we're bringing people behind the scenes of our writing process and letting them see different little sneak peeks of what we're working on, asking their opinion, we still need to maintain an air of mystery surrounding the book itself. So in your platform and excitement building plan, determine ahead of time, what will you keep as a mystery and cover only in your book? What will they have access to only when they buy the book? What will they have to buy the book to get? So as you're creating a plan, okay, we're going to take them behind the scenes here, here, and here. We're going to get surveys on these two things. We're going to ask them these questions. You also want to make sure that you know what they'll have to buy the book to find out, right? So maybe it's you can give them a skeleton of a system, but they have to read the book to get the nuanced details or whatever. But I want to recap really quickly before we move on to the next slide. I know we're covering a lot very quickly. And if you guys want a transcript of this, I actually have a live event kit for authors and a product that I can give you. It's the first $1,000 of digital products or programs. Just email me. You don't have to opt into any list. It's michelle@bmichellepippin.com, and I'll shoot it all over to you. Feel free in the email to tell me a bit about your book and your plan so that I can add some value to you personally, just as a gift for being a Greenleaf client. But to recap, we want to plan for platform building and make sure it's a crescendo-like arc of increasing excitement leading to the book launch itself, but not ending there. Your messaging to your list, no matter its size, should not be all about the book. It should be all about them and their problem or opportunity, whatever you help them with. And you should plan this type of pre-publishing sequence out ahead of time, right? I'm all about sequences because as business owners, as authors, as experts, we have other lives too, and we are have other things pulling on our time. So I really plan out this pre-publishing sequence so that we are creating fans for our book before it's ever published. You should take them behind the scenes and allow them to become invested in the book as it's being written. I want to talk to you quickly about something that very few people are really talking with experts about as they're becoming authors, and that is getting sponsors for your book. We see a lot of people who talk to speakers and those who are putting on events about getting sponsors, but many of my authors actually get sponsors for their book and or for their book tour well before the book is ever written. I had a client actually who had Maytag sponsor her book on healthy eating. I've worked with authors who had a van donated to accompany the author on her book tour. I've worked with brands who had different email service providers, payroll services, and even a political organization sponsor their books and or their book tours. So if you're not yet published, and you've not thought of sponsorship as an income source for your book, just email me. If you're already published and you're dancing around with this idea of having a live event or even a series of live events to breathe new life into your book, email me. I can help you with these things. Sponsorship money gets really exciting really, really quick because there's a lot of it out there. And as an author, you're really ideally poised to go after this additional stream of income. Let's move on to some additional pre-publishing profit opportunities. So on your screen you see the phrase, every chapter a hook. Greenleaf are absolutely the experts at making sure your book has an enticing, intriguing table of contents, right? Look at the books that they publish and you'll see this is a very common theme with them. And it's important, right? It's what people look for when they're deciding whether or not to buy your book. But you, as the author, need to take that table of contents and think, every chapter needs to be another media hook for mass attention. Ideally, every chapter title is a hook within itself, but let's be sure that we and or our team have a monthly media outreach plan because we don't want the book to die on the shelf in the first month. We want to continuously pump new, fresh blood into this book, and a media plan is a great way to do that. So as many of you have, if you're already published, you probably have already found out that your local media does not care that you're now a published author. And when I bring in media experts to speak at my events for experts, this is the top frustration of authors. They write a book and then they're immediately told that their book isn't news, right? The fact that they wrote a book isn't news. And yet, you know, it's news to us. We're proud of it. We're excited. But there's no way there is a way to make your book become part of the news. And so here's the deal. So what I encourage the authors I work with to do is to have two things. You need to have evergreen hooks, media hooks, ideally based on the chapter titles of your book. And I'm going to go into two details with this, and we're going to spend a bit of time here because it's really important and can make all the difference. Not only just kind of wind beneath your wings, right, because it feels great to have the media's attention, and it feels great to have the media validate you as an author and as an expert, but also because it does drive book sales, and it does help you profit in other ways as well from your book. So we're going to stay here for just a bit. You need to have evergreen hooks, which are ideally based on the chapter titles of your book. And you need to put those into a monthly media outreach plan. And you also, the second thing you need to have are what I call if-then hooks. And so I want to explain, and the best way I think I can explain is to use some examples. So as an example, one of my authors has a dog recipe book with a chapter on nutrition for ideal immunity for dogs, right? Now, you know, some of us, if you're like me, you know, I get frustrated just trying to cook whole foods for my own family. I'm not yet cooking for my dogs, but this is a great book. It was self-published in the beginning. It got picked up by a traditional publisher and is now in its third printing. But this chapter, Nutrition for an Ideal Immunity for Dogs, becomes an evergreen topic in June or July when people are dealing with fleas. It becomes an evergreen topic as soon as this author's press release reveals the link between your dog's immune system and a flea infestation. So part of the monthly media plan for her includes hitting the media with this flea/immunity/nutrition hook during the months when fleas are likely to become news anyway. I say this is an evergreen topic because it's something that's always going to be an issue around June or July in a lot of the parts of the country. So that's an evergreen topic based purely on the content of each different chapter. But the if-then hook is based on circumstances that we cannot control and we frankly wouldn't want to control, but we should still plan for. So as an example, this entire book is about making dog food for your dog versus buying like commercial brand dog food. So if there's a food recall in pet food, then we hit the media with stories about not relying on commercial food and giving them an alternative. So can you see how that works? We plan for it ahead of time. We never hope for a recall, because that means probably some precious pets have passed and people have gotten, pets have gotten sick, or even people have gotten sick by handling the pet food. But we don't plan for it, we don't control it, but we do plan for it ahead of time. Everything's prepared and ready to go so that we, as a brand, as an author, can move quickly to get the author the press that she wants and deserves when these if-then situations arise. I want to give one more quick example, because media is a tool that I use really effectively with my clients. I'm not a PR person, but it's something I use really effectively with my clients. So let's say you wrote an emergency preparedness book, maybe for the prepper demographic. And I'm not a prepper, I'm just using this as an example. But so in late August, early September, an evergreen topic is the news will be covering hurricanes, right? It's hurricane season. They're watching some tropical storms or whatever. And this is sort of in my area. I live in the Outer Banks of North Carolina. But in late August, early September, you're going to see the news covering an evergreen topic for that area, which is hurricane season. This is a natural evergreen topic for this author. The if-then hook would be if there's a human interest news story of missing persons in the wild, like those two boys in Florida, for example, who they've just been on my heart and mind. But these two boys that the whole nation is following, hoping that they get found alive and well. But there are these kids that are lost in the ocean. So if something like this happens, this author writing a book on emergency preparedness needs to be prepared to pitch the media on a story about what these boys may have had on board that would help aid in their survival, or what we should all do when we go on into the ocean to make sure that we are best prepared for the unthinkable. So I want you to see how that works. Every chapter of your book needs to have an evergreen media hook and also an if-then media hook. If you guys have any questions, tweet them or email us and we'll answer them at the end of the call, or if I see them pop up, then I'll answer them live. So just want to make sure that we're still interactive even though we're virtual. All right, let's move on. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this slide. It's helpareporterout.com. It's a free resource, and I like Help a Reporter Out. It's great because you can not only be a source, which is the way most people use this. Most authors and experts use it as a source. So as a source, you can respond to queries from other journalists, media people, bloggers, and get media attention that way, right? So you can look up your topic. They send emails 3 times a day, and in order to become a source for a journalist, you need to kind of have somebody watching that so you can reply quickly. But you can literally use HARO, or Help a Reporter Out, to get the attention of the market that you're trying to reach with your book. And this is just sort of a really creative way to use this resource. But let's say you wanted to reach, and this is sort of a play from my own playbook, speakers who are sick of hearing that there's no budget for speakers and that they are amazing at what they do, but no one wants to pay them anymore. If you used to speak for profit, or you want to speak for profit, you get this, right? You're sick of hearing this. They want your topic. You're an amazing speaker. You have an amazing experience that you can share, and people want you to do it for free. And actually, for speakers, a lot of people are wanting the speakers to pay, which baffles me. But I have a solution for this. And so I used HARO and submitted a query asking for these exact frustrated speakers to share their frustrations with me for an article I was writing. For you, it would be hopefully for the book that you're writing. And so you can get this ideal market to give you feedback and their attention and give you great quotes. And you're getting the attention of a market that will now be anxiously awaiting your publishing date. In addition to that, you're building your platform, right? Because when they see that you're writing about this topic that's important to them, they're going to sign on to get updates from you. They're going to become fans, etc. So helpareporterout.com, really, you don't want to be overly aggressive with this. They can, ban you. I haven't been banned yet, thankfully, but it's a great resource and it's free. I think there are paid options. I've never used them, but helpareporterout.com, play around with it. It's really a great tool to get the attention of your ideal market. You can literally call out to them by name. If you are blank, 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 and you're experiencing blank, 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 I want to hear from you for this book that I'm writing. It's beautiful. All right, moving on. Deliberate mentions. So this is something that is a bit, I have seen it used with actually a book that I ghost wrote with a traditional publisher, and so even traditional publishers will sometimes look the other way when you do this. But I encourage authors to always be very deliberate in writing their book. We want to know, who do you want to read this book, right? Maybe it's a particular industry leader. Maybe it's another author. Maybe it is the CEO of Google, whatever it is, right? We want to make a list, which companies, which leaders, which industries do you really want this book to kind of grow some roots within? Which media outlets do you want attention for this book? So, when you figure out and make a list of who you want to actually read your book, then you want to mention them, or at least their industry, within the pages of their book, right? Mention their company, their product. And here's the difference that this makes. If you say, let's say you wanted to make an impact in the real estate market, and and you are there's a couple big industry bloggers or something like that. We could write a book about the real estate market and simply send it to them and hope that they read it. Or we can mention them or quote them within the pages of our book and say, hey, Michelle, I know you're busy, but I love this quote that you posted back in 2009 and is on page 113 of my new book. I've sent you a book, and I've got a sticky note where that way you can open to the correct chapter, etc. And which one do you think is going to get more opens? Which one is going to get the most attention, the most gratitude? It's when people are mentioned within the pages of your book. So this works especially well when you are trying to reach the quote-unquote hard-to-reach folks. They're busy, they're famous maybe, and it's hard to really get to them. This is a great way to use your book. They might not read your entire book, but they're human, and they're all going to read what you wrote about them or their company, their product, or their industry. So let's move on to something that I'm sure all of you guys have your own website, and I just want to make sure that we are growing our platform, right? And we want to take our list and drive them to purchase the book. But our book, remember, also, we don't want to count on it, but it will take on a life of its own. And so we want to make sure that we have the readers of our book being directed back to our site and engaging with us there. That's where a lot of profit starts coming in when you talk about maybe an author having live events or selling digital programs or all the things that Greenleaf can help you with. But we want to make sure that we drive our list to become readers. We want to make sure that we have a system or a funnel in place, something that we've choreographed for readers to become part of our list and part of our online communities. So I always recommend that you have something in your book that drives readers to your site, and it should be something like yoursite.com/readers only, or bmichellepippin.com/authors or whatever, which is not a real page on my site, but you see what I'm saying. We want to make sure that we are giving readers a reason to come to our site. So we want to plan ahead of time for some upgraded content that your readers can only get by going to your website and entering an email. Canfield is great at this. In almost all of his books, he directs you to his site to get templates, worksheets, blueprints, extra videos, how-to tutorials. He's great at this, and we want to really mirror his efforts there. So think ahead of time before you publish about where and how you can direct readers back to your website and get them to exchange their email address for upgraded content. Now, it is important to be very wary of using this. We can't have something where every page, every chapter, we're directing them to our website and asking them to give us an email. We want to make sure that we use it judiciously, I guess. So we don't want to overuse this, but we don't want to ignore this tactic either. It's very important for having a plan that so your readers will come back to your website so that you can continue the relationship with them. One of the things that I wanted to make sure I included as you guys are writing your books is the fact that we sometimes ignore the most basic ways to turn a book into a client. And that's when I tell people to always make sure throughout your book you are including when I work with statements. So it's sort of like when I work with, and then insert your target market that you work with under, the other expert umbrella of your business. When I offer workshops for, insert target market. When I consult with, insert target market. We don't ever want to assume that people immediately know we do something other than being an author, right? It's sounds like something that they should know, right? But they often just don't make that leap on their own. So don't ignore the most basic ways to turn your book into a profit generator. So always work in little statements. When I work with, when I worked with, when I meet with, letting people know that you're open to other ways of engagement besides and outside of the book itself. All right, so now we're going to move into some post-publishing profit opportunities, okay? And I don't really, I don't want to go over time, and I want to leave time for questions, but we want to be sure that we are planning for post-publishing profit, whether we have published yet or whether we published 3 years ago. So your book, and we've heard this term about the Bible, right? It's a living, breathing document or whatever, but your book really is a living document, and we know this because we've all read books that we read it once and we highlight and we take notes or whatever, and then we read it again a year later or 2 years later and we see something that had always been there, but we didn't see it the first time around. So your book really should have a very long shelf life. The experts tell us otherwise, but we need to make sure we're doing all we can to breathe longevity into our own books. So you want to make sure that after your book is published, that you have a plan for some sort of author's notes. Right? Maybe you, Mike Michalowicz actually did something which is really cool, and he's the author of The Toilet Paper Entrepreneur. If you'll email me, I'll give you my interview with him. He and I did an event together a while back, but he wrote The Toilet Paper Entrepreneur. That was self-published, and it still brings in, like years and years later, about $4,000 a month in income for him. Then he published, I believe, and I could be wrong on this, but he published The Pumpkin Plan with a traditional publisher, and he will never go that route again. He got a handsome, advance for that book, but the profit he made in self-publishing versus the traditional publisher, not even close. So, but one thing that he did when he was working with a traditional publisher, they cut out a lot of his personality out of the book, and he was mad about it. And so he did sort of an author event where he showed his readers what was left on the editing room floor. Really, really cool stuff. But we can all do that. We can all breathe longevity into our books by giving real-time updates, showing details that were left out just due to time constraints or page constraints or whatever. Always give people what they didn't get in the book, right? And because the world is always changing, there's always something new to add. So just continue to engage your readers with some additional ongoing author's notes. The next thing that I see as a huge potential for profit post-publishing date that is often done wrong is the relaunch, right? Many people will they'll be disappointed with the book that they wrote and it didn't sell as many copies as they had hoped, or it didn't turn into a big business back end for them or what have you. And so their solution is to relaunch the book. And I understand, I get where their mind's going here. But typically, when an author does a relaunch, they sort of do the same thing they did before during the original launch, and I completely disagree with that logic, right? The book is no longer new, and I prefer to do a deep dive with my authors. So instead of relaunching the book, we sort of bring the book to life. Even if you have 10 people that bought your book and one of them is your mom, right? Then you've got 10 people who have read your book and hopefully put it into action, applied it to their own life, and have stories to tell. So in a deep dive approach to a relaunch, we actually can highlight our readers, interview them on a podcast, interview them on a webinar, share their stories, their case studies, and bring the book into real life. And I recommend doing this whether your book killed it at the launch date or bombed at launch date. Really plan for this deep dive about 6 months after publishing, or if you're 4 years out, plan for it in 3 months. Let's go back, collect those readers, do some case stories, celebrate the people who took our blood, sweat, and tears that we turned into a book and then applied it to their life and saw change, right? A deep dive. Think in terms of a deep dive, not a relaunch. I have seen this really blow up the book sales of a book that most experts would say was dead, gone, and buried. In my interview with Mike McAllowicz, he actually did this with the Toilet Paper Entrepreneur. In fact, when he launched the Toilet Paper Entrepreneur, which many of you guys might be familiar with, in the interview he shared with me on day one, not even one book was sold. And so I kind of felt gutted for him when he told me that. And then he took it a step deeper and he said, what this means is not even my own mother bought a book on the day that the book was launched. And so that's a bad day. And anyway, he went and breathed new life into that book, and it became a New York Times bestseller, and I believe it still is. I'm not sure about that, but I do know it's bringing in about $4,000 a month to him, the author. Because he's self-published, it's bringing in that much income for him every month, and it's years after the publishing date. So hopefully that encourages some of you guys. The next thing I want to talk about are chapter summaries. And many times, we put so much of ourselves into a book, and we are writing it, we're editing it, we're mulling over it, we're the ones who are pushing the button on the media machine, trying to get press and attention and all of that. And the truth is, once a book launches, we're tired as people, right? We're tired, and it seems almost like we don't want to revisit it for a while. And I recommend, no matter how old your book is, and or even if it's not written yet, to start blogging, giving sort of a chapter summary or a Reader's Digest version of what each chapter is going to cover in your book. What this does, I actually do this for my products because I don't have a traditionally or a print published book, but I do this for my products. And so what I do is I sort of do a Reader's Digest version of the different things that are included in the product itself. And each of those blog posts links to the sales page for the product. And you can and should be doing that on your own platforms about your book, really doing a chapter summary, highlights, success stories, whatever you can do from each different chapter, and then linking to the sales page for the book. This is a great way to have consistent. It's not going to give you a surge of book sales or a surge of new clients, but it will give you a steady stream of them. And so, think about the ways that you can use this Reader's Digest sort of approach. You can certainly do the blog post, which I talked about. You can do podcasts. You can do videos on YouTube. You can do interviews with readers or experts regarding the topic of that particular chapter. And so I would have something for each chapter that drives people to the sales page of the book. That's a really great, solid strategy to increase book sales. I'm not going to go into this anymore. We covered it in detail in the pre-publishing profit opportunities portion of this call. But, we don't want to forget that afterwards. Even if our book was published 4 years ago, we can still take the every chapter a hook approach and start a new monthly media plan. We need the initial plan for what hooks we're going to use, the monthly evergreen, and the monthly sort of if-then or what's hot. We don't want to ignore that if our book is already published. Just start where you are, write down the list of chapters, and figure out up to 3 hooks think of the evergreen hooks and the if-then hooks for each different chapter, and then start contacting the media. One quick tip with the media before we move forward into some questions and ancillary products. One thing about the media is that many times we send out full form press releases, often as an attachment to journalists. And I've found, and my clients have found, that the better way to go is to simply keep a make it a very, very short email. Don't assume they want to read the book. Take the hook itself, mention that there's a book attached to that, because we obviously want to get as much mileage as we can for being a published author. But we don't have to send the book. We don't have to send a full page formal press release. We need to talk to journalists like they're people. And one thing I've learned, and I've had several journalists, ex-journalists, former journalists, current journalists, media experts at my events over the years, and one thing that they all say that they all tell my audience is that we have more news time to fill than we have news to fill it. We need your stories. We just have to give it to them as a hook that is easily applied to their general audience. We just have to give it to them. So don't forget the full page press releases. Just send a quick blurb to them, let them know what you have in mind, why it's relevant, and keep on and keep on. I'd recommend starting with a list of about 25 journalists. I prefer going to the journalist versus the publisher or editor, just because I found much better success that way. But have your list of 25 and hit them pretty regularly. You will start getting some responses, and it gets really exciting really fast when the media kind of catches on to what you're doing. All right, so we're going to move on to the sales choreography bit of this, but essentially it's more of just a summary. We want to make sure that we're giving our book a sales position within our company, right? There's so many reasons to become a published author. I have seen the benefits of that. You are hopefully seeing the benefits of that. But we want to make sure that our book has a sales position within our company. We want to know how we are going to use it and how we're going to promote it. So how we're going to use it, maybe it's part of a shock and awe package, maybe it's simply a lead generator published digitally, maybe it's a lead generator used as a business card for people. We want to know how it's going to be used. When we are talking about sales choreography, though, we don't just want a list of the ways we're going to use our book to build our business or build our brand or build our income. We want to actually have that written out. So if I say, okay, Michelle, how are you going to use your book? Well, I'm going to use it as a really valuable business card. Okay, that's all right. Well, how are we going to use it? Who is it going to go to? What kind of person? Is it going to be delivered in person, or is it going to be delivered via mail? And this is the most important part of sales choreography. Once someone has that book in their hands, how will we follow up with them? Quick note, even if you didn't mention someone's industry in the book or their name or their product or their company, I always give them a place to start in the book. Otherwise, it goes, especially if you're sending books to journalists or media people, right? They have a stack of books that have been sent to them, and you want to make yours different. And one great way to make yours different is to pick out a quote or a page or a chapter that might apply best to them. Maybe it's because they're pet lovers, maybe it's because they graduate from Notre Dame, whatever it is, something that would apply specifically to that media person, and say, hey, here, tell them the hook, and then say, on page 113, you might find this story really interesting. I know you and I both have St. Bernards, like whatever it is, but make it applicable to them. So even if you didn't mention them in the book, always, before you send the book cold to someone, at least draw their attention to a page or a chapter or something like that so they know where to start. It's easy. The truth is they're not going to read your whole book. So you want to give them a place to start where they get immediate value and they can relate to you immediately. Okay, so I want to move on because I know that Greenleaf has several different ways that they can work with you. I don't even know all the ways that they can work with you, but books are great as lead generators. Books are great to help you get into the media, even though the book itself isn't the hook. It's full of hooks, and if you do it the way we've talked about today, you will start getting a lot more media, the media that you really, really want. And but books are only one way that you can work with Greenleaf Book Group, and so I am hugely supportive of authors not stopping with a book, right? And developing some ancillary products that they can profit from in their business. There should be a huge back end of your book. There should be a what's next. I've read your book, now what's next? So we want to talk about developing those ancillary products. And if you talk to whoever your contact is at Greenleaf Book Group, they actually will walk you through some of this. But we want to make sure that we're not leaving anything off the table. I actually interviewed someone this week, and I'm not sure exactly how I feel about it, frankly, but he created a webinar based on his book, and the book sells for like $3 or something on Amazon Kindle, and his webinar sold for $197. And so and I said, well, how do you justify the price? And he said, well, when I speak I charge $10,000 and the book's $3, and so I felt like $197 was a great way for me to walk them through sort of personally through the book. So anyway, but he did a webinar. And you can do masterminds as a back end for your book. You can do consulting work, although that's sort of still trading hours for dollars, but you can do high dollar consulting work. You can certainly have live events if you have tried live events and they didn't work for you, they weren't profitable, or you're afraid to try them again, or you're hesitant to try a live event. I have found live events to be absolutely the most profitable thing that authors can do. It's the most profitable aspect of my business. And so email me and I'll shoot you my live event package so that you can kind of at least consider that for yourself. But for right now, we just want to make sure that you are considering, especially for those who have already been published and you've been published through Greenleaf Book Group, go back to them and talk with them about ancillary products, because this can be the biggest back end, the biggest profit potential that your book brings you. And so it's really taking the hard work that you already put into the book, repackaging it, repricing it, and then re-promoting it for even more profit. So hopefully you guys have tweeted some questions. I will definitely be on Twitter later on. And if you have questions that have come in, I'm not sure, Carly, if questions have come in or not, but I'm certainly available to answer them. Carly, I'm not sure if you are still there. I don't see any questions that have come in, so maybe I will check with Twitter. But if you guys have any other questions for me, certainly email me at michelle@bmichellepippin.com. You won't be added to any list or anything like that. You can just have a quick conversation with me. Follow Greenleaf Book Group on Twitter at Greenleaf Book GR, which is right there in front of you on your screen. And this webinar and others are available on YouTube. And I found a bunch of them just by searching YouTube for Greenleaf Book Group, or going to greenleafbookgroup.com and searching through their blog and their webinars and stuff like that. Just huge, great information there. So I appreciate you guys being on the call with me today, and look forward to your questions. Look forward to seeing what you do with the information that we provided today, and hope to see you guys again somewhere around Greenleaf Book Group, and excited to read your books as well. So I'm going to X out, and we will hopefully talk again soon. Thanks a lot, guys.